The Record Machine with your host, Jimmy Hall.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome singer-songwriter David Reece to the program.
How you doing, David?
Hey, brother. Nice to hear your voice.
Nice to hear your voice. How are you?
Been a long day. Did a bunch of errands today. Had to drive to a village called Parma, which was a pretty good haul. And then traffic's just psychotic, James. So always kind of wigged me out. So I came home, did a power nap for about 30 minutes. I feel good now.
That's good. How's the situation there in Italy?
It's I mean, we were at a clinic today for our health and getting some, just checkup stuff. So everybody wearing a mask there, of course, but pretty open, actually. Better than this time last year. That's what I can say. I mean, there's still some restrictions, but we have to do the app when we go to a restaurant.
Okay.
Show that on our phones, all that crap, but you can't eat with a mask on. So it's getting a little better, but
the last time that me and you spoke was like maybe a few months after the pandemic started. It was April of 2020. Since then, you've made a brand new album. It's called Blacklist Utopia. It's coming out on October 29th. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, let's get busy. The title came to me one day. I actually, to be honest, during 2020, I got glued to the news, and I had a kind of a negative impact on me. Like right after all that broke loose, it really started eating my skull away. And I was having anxiety attacks. I mean, I was getting weirded out by it, right? This negativity. And every day I woke up, my emails were just chock full of cancellations and more bad news. So I think it put me in kind of a black hole for a couple months. But then I started watching all these riots and everything, you know, and where George Floyd was killed by the police was an old neighborhood of mine. I kind of started my rock and roll career in that neighborhood.
Wow.
And so a lot of those buildings like Minnehaha and Lake Street, on Lake Street, those liquor stores and those grocery stores, I would go in every day. I knew those people, buy my beer, my cigarettes, my milk there for my family. I mean, I'm watching them burn to the ground, and it's like these savages running wild and nobody's doing it. They burned down the police station that was the one that pretty much protected our neighborhood. They burned it to the ground. So in the interim of all this going on, you know, I'm having dialect with people going, hey, you know, this Black Lives Matter thing and Antifa, you know, this is violence. I mean, this isn't really working. I mean, if they want a statement to be made, I think there's a better way to do it.
Right. And
somebody in some chat room called me a racist.
Yeah, I remember reading that somewhere.
And it went viral, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden, one of the guys who was booking me was involved in it. So I'm wondering, you know, about these future dates, why I'm not getting responses. And luckily I had a friend call me and say, dude, this is not good news and keep me out of it. So-and-so is saying this and he's part of this whole thing. And I'm like, what? I mean, dude, just so the public knows, probably 90% of my family is mixed race, African-American, Mexican-American, Native American. I mean, I am not a racist.
Oh, of
so I'm not. I mean, and it's just absurd because if people really knew, my dad went all over the United States as the first few years of my youth. He put himself through college and worked jobs. He was a chemist and an engineer, got his own PhDs. We ended up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And I remember I was taken care of by a Black woman named Gertrude. She would walk to our house and walk us back to her farm. And we played with her 7 or 8 kids or 12 kids, or I don't remember how they were, on this ghetto farm in the middle of nowhere all day long while my mother was in the hospital being a cook and my dad was in school. And I never, ever thought, wow, these are Black people. They were kids.
Right.
And she was like my mom who made sure I was fed and took care of me, and my mother paid her. You know, I never did this. So I was asked to write a written apology. And I said, I'll be damned. This is an attack on me. I don't know. And the guy that did it is a singer also. Okay. So I think he's a little jealous of me. So, but to go that far was terrible. So anyways, getting back to all that, this is all part of the build up to the title of the album. I started watching all these statues come down in history, and I'm a Civil War guy. I love the history of it. It was a really bizarre time in American history. And I'm thinking, okay, so you're tearing down all these statues, and do you feel better now? Is the world changed for you in that 15 minutes of fame on TV? Are you a better person? Is the whole world all of a sudden changed because you removed part of what happened, good or bad, in my country? What is the utopia that you're seeking? I thought, well, if I take a side here where I protest against what they're doing, I'm attacked by one side. And then if I go along with the other side, then I'm attacked by the side that I was supporting the day before. I kind of tried to stay like, hey, open-minded about it. So I called it the Blacklist Utopia. Are we going to be satisfied? Pardon me, my headphones. Are we going to be satisfied with whatever utopia the human race is seeking? And my answer to that is no, because I think we're past the point of no return, where no matter what the resolution is or whatever they come up with, it won't be enough.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense.
So I just, you know, when you start attacking me personally and burning down my neighborhood, incidentally, my aunt had polio when she was a child, so she's into an electric chair full time. And about 10 10 blocks from all that chaos and burning and rioting. She can't get out of the house anyways, and the people that care for her can't get to the house. How's she going to eat? Where's the woke? Where are the woke people there?
Exactly. Yeah, it was terrible what was going on. I couldn't believe it. And, they were trying to send help in there, and the governors and the people running those neighborhoods were refusing it. I guess I don't know what their problem was, but you think that they wanted to put a stop to it, and they didn't.
Well, it's politically for them. It's scoring brownie points. And my whole issue about all it is, what is the brownie point? What is the utopia? I mean, you really think that the humankind is gonna, if you defund the police around the United States and the world, you really think that there's going to be great people going around knocking your door going, okay, don't stab or murder that person, or grab them and give them a hug and say, it's okay, we understand. We're going to put you in a hospital now after they've destroyed a human's life or a family. I believe there's reasonable force needed to control a population, but you don't kill a black man who's saying, I can't breathe. Okay. And you don't have 3 policemen standing around watching it while it happens. Right. I think they knew the guy and they didn't like him. Right. They'd have arrested him so many times. So they made this guy a martyr.
Of course.
And I'm not prejudiced against him as a person because I'm not perfect. I've done illegal things in my life. And sure. But to make this guy, I mean, where's the family that got the $23 million in the lawsuit? What have they done to better their neighborhood and their communities? I challenge them to say what they've done with that money. No, I doubt nothing but line their pockets and buy cars and yeah. Yeah,
it's a shame what happened.
It's terrible.
Year or so,
Yeah. So that's where that all came from.
Awesome. This podcast is going to feature 2 tracks off the album, Red Blooded Hellraiser and American Dream. What's the story behind those 2?
Well, we asked me earlier about the songwriting process and talk about songs. The beginning of the album, I'd gone into that funk, right after all this happened. It was March 13th was a release of Cacophony. And that was our big release party show and all that. That weekend was like 3 shows, I think. And then after that, about 38 gigs, I think, were lost. But Andy Susemihl, the guitarist and producer, had just really started delving into his last solo album. So Malta, our bassist, like after about 2 months of just downtime, wrote me and said, I'm bored. Let's write some songs. And I'm like, well, I haven't really written with you, Malta. And he goes, yeah, I've got all these songs, but nobody really takes me serious. I said, okay, send me some tracks. And he sent me Utopia. He sent me Down to the Core and a few others. I'm like, wow, this guy can write, man. So we just started bouncing ideas and me singing in the phone. And then we kind of opened up with the COVID thing so I could get back in the studio and start tracking. So in about 6 months, we wrote and recorded that album. But Red Blooded Hellraiser, Andy caught wind that Malta and I had written, I think, 9 or 10 songs. And he said, hey, man, why hasn't anybody called me? I said, well, you've been doing the solo album, doing your thing. We just thought we'd stay busy. Well, I got some riffs. So he sent me Red Blooded Hellraiser, and it was originally like something Drag Racer was his idea, and the English did not work at all. And I just started thinking about my past, and I said, you know what? I'm a red-blooded Hellraiser, and I said, I'll take my doers with a slice of lime with style, blah, blah, blah. That's a line from a Billy Squier song from the 80s. And I just started throwing all this stuff into the stew pot, and I came up with that. It's about, just being a rebel. You got to raise a little hell, if you want to get to heaven. And the next song was American Dream that you asked about, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That seems to be a fan favorite. That one's really great. Thank you. Andy Susemihl, criminally underrated acoustic ballad writing guy that he is, and producer, guitarist. I said, we need another ballad because Cacophony had another life, another time. And he said, well, I've got this thing kind of going. And he starts strumming it on the phone and he sent it to me. And I was looking at the internet and I knew that the 20-year anniversary of 9/11 was coming. And with all this stuff that had, transpired over 2020 with COVID and the politics and just this madness, I saw this photograph of the Statue of Liberty, and in front of her was one of the towers was collapsing and one was burning. And it just warped my head. I kind of fathom my thought process is like a lot of squirrels in my head storing nuts. So I have like an idea here, I'll lock it away, and then I'll see something that'll trigger that. It's the only way I can really explain it. It's like, well, better go get that nut. It's time to store for the winter fat or whatever. It's a weird way to tell you my way of doing things. But American Dream, came out of that. And what I've seen kind of coincides with when I was a kid. I was told by my father, like I'd mentioned earlier, this guy was adopted, basically put himself through school, high IQ, became very wealthy and successful, died very young, but worked and made everything happen. And he always told me, I don't care if you're a ditch digger, a posthole digger, you will be the best that ever lived. And you're going to get up and go to work every day and you're going to earn money. Mm-hmm. And if you work hard and try hard and apply yourself, that's the American dream. That's what this is made of. And right now, I don't see that happening anymore.
No, it's a shame, ain't it?
I apologize. If anybody's offended by that, it's my opinion, and I don't mean that I'm right. Mm-hmm. But it seems the harder some of my good folks' friends try, the less they're getting. It's being pulled out from under them. And they're losing that heart and soul to continue that thinking.
Mm-hmm. No, I've noticed a lot, like, over the last few years, a lot of people's work ethics are not as good as they used to be. It's not like, like you said, like how your parents, raised you and, instilled in you that if you work hard, it'll pay off for you. You know what I mean? A lot of people today, they just feel like they're entitled. They want everything handed to them, and it's ridiculous.
James, I live in Europe, and I roofed all summer in Denmark. They have a 35-hour work week. Mm-hmm. They have a welfare system in Denmark that would blow your mind, but they pay taxes that I couldn't afford it. But they have so many programs that a 35-hour work week, 5 days a week, when they say it's break time, it's a 2-hour sit down and do nothing. Mm-hmm. This sense of, and it's their life. That's their country. That's how they do things. I'm not judging them, but in America, you know how it is. We work.
Right.
And if you don't perform, you get fired. But up there, it was like, don't worry about it. This is Denmark. We don't push ourselves. And in the construction business that I'm used to, if you don't produce, you're gone, and you're not making money for the boss.
Nope.
And he's spending more money than he was planning on the bid. And then he comes to the job site and there's 5 guys sitting on the roof. See you later. Exactly. Usually it's the lead guy and then it's the second guy.
Yep.
But it's just, like you said, there's this sense in the world that social media that there's a guy called Boots O'Neill that I'm a fan of. He's an old cowboy, and he worked for the 4-6s Ranch, and he's worked for all the big outfits. He's 90 years old. I think he's recently passed, but they asked him, what's changed for you in the world? And he said, well, those little things you hold in your hand and you're staring at. He goes, I had dinner the other night with a bunch of cowboys. We were sitting there, and he goes, every one of them had their face buried in a phone, and I couldn't get a word out of any of them.
Right.
And he goes, I remember the dinner table was a place to go talk about the day and find out from all the kids and your mom and dad, how you doing? We had conversation. We looked forward to the community. Mm-hmm. No, and I feel we've lost some of that.
I totally agree with you on that.
But I don't want to go on my political rants and stuff. I'm a conservative. I'm not ashamed to say, but I'm also in the middle where I understand, I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but back to music. That's one thing too about music that kind of frightens me. It seems that music, there's, I don't know, music for you people like you and me. Mm-hmm. It's deep. We live for music.
When you approach your songwriting, you base a lot of your ideas on experiences that you see going on around the world, right?
Yeah, I'm not a baby, whoa guy. I told you that last time, and I there's room for it. Right. There's Meatloaf, there's, Journey, there's bands that it works great for, Foreigner. Mm-hmm. I mean, that style of music calls that. But me, I would like to say something. And I've learned over the last 3 or 4 years that I wasted a lot of time being kind of a clone to David Coverdale with the Hammond and the blues rock thing. Mm-hmm. And I was just kind of assumed that I should be doing that because I could do it fairly well.
Right.
But it wasn't really me.
Right.
And now I'm trying to focus more on it's subjective, and what I say, you may take a different way. Some people have said, their interpretation, what I write, like the song I Can't Breathe. Well,
right.
what are you doing, Dave? That was a terrible moment. I said, it's not about George Floyd.
It's not about what you think it is.
Right.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people just assume right off the bat. When I heard it, I didn't think that at all. I didn't think that.
I'm choking because I can't breathe anymore. I mean, even you look at the album cover of Blacklist Utopia. On the back is Chernobyl. It's the Ferris wheel.
Right.
There's an interracial couple on the back. And on the front, there's a pool party going on, and in the valley, the city's on fire. You know what I'm saying? It's just there's no middle. I mean, yeah. And I Can't Breathe is based on, actually Andy wrote that riff. He came up with that great,
Over the last year and a half or so, besides Reece, you've worked on some other projects. Can you talk about those projects a little bit?
Absolutely. I'd love to. In all this chaos, let's see, I did right before the lockdown, I'd also done the new John Steele album in Bulgaria. Now, this is kind of a progressive Iron Maiden style thing.
Okay.
Doogie White did a record with them. He's a fabulous singer. And then Blaze Bailey, another great singer, he did an album with them. But I would be called to come do their songs and play live shows with them in Bulgaria a lot. And we played with Hammerfall one night, and the band said, "Hey, will you do an album with us? Blah, blah, blah. Let's negotiate." I said, "Okay." So we did that right before Cacophony was to be released. So that was kind of like January 2020. And I'd always said before going kind of pretty much solo, I don't want to be in a band anymore, and I don't want to do this and a bunch of projects. But 2020 kind of pushed me back in the corner where I got to survive, right? So on top of that, I got a phone call from my manager and said, Jimmy Waldo from Alcatraz has some cool songs. And if you look at Blacklist, he's collaborated with me on 2 songs. And while Jimmy's sending me ideas to the songs, he says, "Hey, I got a friend named Steve Rosen. And if anybody's familiar with Steve Rosen, he was a writer for Rolling Stone and I think Guitar World. You can go to YouTube and he interviews everybody, Eddie, Satriani, Vai, Beck, Page. And his dream was one day I'll do a record and I want all of you to do a solo on my album." So Jimmy calls me and introduces me to Steve and says, "We're going to do this record. I love your writing. Would you write the lyrics and melodies on the album?" And I said, "Sure." But I was unaware that they had called in the heavy artillery to play guitars. So they decided on 2 Blackthorn songs because Bob Kulick had passed away. And I did Graham Bonnet's. I re-sang his vocal tracks on those songs. But I wrote 9 of the lyrics and the melodies to the music that they had written.
Cool.
And on the album is Joe Satriani, Bumblefoot, Paul Gilbert, Kane Roberts, a cornucopia of the royalty of rock and roll guitar players. So I'm really blessed to have been part of that. And the band project is called the Highway Sentinels. And how that kind of happened was another project that you probably read about is Herman Frank and I. We were searching for Herman out of the blue reached out to me. And the funny thing about Herman and I, we were in the same band, but not at the same time. And we never personally met. We would miss each other by minutes at festivals. And I said, "I'm going to meet that guy." And he would say the same thing, but it would never happen.
Right.
So he writes me an email and says, "I've been thinking about you a lot. I think we should do a record together." And I said, "I would be honored. 2X Accept, guys, let's do it." He sent me a couple of tracks and they were he's a monster guitar player. What a great guitar player. And it just fit. So I went in and wrote the lyrics and sang the stuff. And he was like, "Yep, this is going to work." So we were hunting down a band name. And I said, "Well, I've got this idea called the Highway Sentinels." And he's very straightforward. "I hate it. It won't work." So he goes, "I've got a better idea." I said, "Oh yeah, what's that?" He goes, "Iron Allies. We are allies. It is metal. We will call it Iron Allies." I said, "Okay, I'll buy it. We'll take it." So it worked. Hey. And in the interim of that, Francesco Giovino played drums on Blacklist Utopia. And we were talking to Michael Heller from Fear Factory. And it didn't quite work out for a multitude of reasons. And I said, "Well, Francesco's the guy. He's part of our clan." He goes, "Yeah, he fits." So Francesco got brought in, and then we started looking for the right bassist. And I said, "Well, we can't bring in Malta or guys that you're playing with in Victory or your solo thing. We got to find somebody else." And Donnie Von Stavern came in from Riot.
Nice.
So Donnie's in the project. So it's actually a band, that I said I wasn't going to do.
Okay.
And we've got about 22 songs recorded right now. Donnie and I and Herman have been writing together.
Wow.
It's been a nutty year. Plus, I've done 10 different side projects with guys, like 2 songs here and there for a guy, Stephen Georg, Christian Bettendorf, Christian Tola. So I was lucky during the lockdown to be able to have work, and an open studio. I had to change studios, and I found one in my village, which is like bicycle distance, which is perfect because I get to stretch out and then go in and sing. And he's great. His name is Ricardo Di Morosi. Tomorrow night, I'm going to go record with Mario Percadani again. I'm doing kind of a synth pop thing, but it's rock too. I've never done it, and I've just written the lyric layout to it. It's kind of a new thing for me, synth metal.
Nice.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, it's like instead of a bunch of guitars, it's all keyboards.
Very cool.
And it's futuristic stuff. So
right.
I'm doing that tomorrow night. I'm going to start it. It's just 2 songs.
Now, you worked with Wicked Sensation as well, too, right?
Yeah, and I got to get to that.
Okay.
Okay, and please, one of my biggest fears, I just read a review of that album today. It is unbelievable. And I got to say, Michael Klein and Zhang Bong are the 2 guitar players. They're kind of like the originators of Wicked Sensation. I did their album Adrenaline Rush in 2014. And then I ended up somehow working with Ziller and those guys in Easy Living and Bonfire, but that's a whole different nightmare. But Michael, in the middle of all this chaos, contacted me and said, "Hey, we're going to do a new album. Would you like to sing on it?" And I said, "Yeah, let's hear it." Man, these songs are crushing great. And I just got back from Germany a few weeks ago where we shot 3 videos for the album, and it's really top quality production. And I'm really excited about this album. It's fantastic from start to finish. And Dennis Ward produced it and mixed it, and he's a great producer. So great songwriters. I mean, Zhang and Michael are just really gifted melody writers,
When can we expect this album?
December 17th on Rock of Angels Records. I think they're based in Greece. And I'm actually talking to them about the Herman Frank thing. But they've done a fabulous job so far of promotion, and it's a great album. And I read this review about an hour before I called you.
Wow.
And it's wow. And the guy just reviewed Blacklist Utopia. My biggest fear is, oversaturation in the market, but people got to understand that I've got to eat, and an American living in Italy, my language is probably 50%. So I'm not fluent enough to where I can go work a normal job here, because they really want you to speak it, to communicate. So I have a work visa, but I have to survive. So what I hopefully did was deliver, in my opinion, I did some really quality stuff, and it should be coming out, spaced out with every 3 months or so.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you could change anything about the industry, what would you change?
Digital streaming.
Yeah. A lot of people say that. Unfortunately. It's a rip off.
The one thing and the weird thing about it is a lot of fans probably don't realize that when a Spotify or a platform contacts a label, they pay a licensing fee to the label. So the labels aren't being crushed. They're not making the big advances for licensing and distribution. They're getting paid to give them permission to, stream that music. So, but the artist is seeing even less via streaming than when we did on CD sales. It's bad enough as it is with vinyl and CDs, but when it goes into the digital airwaves, it's less than pennies, for each song.
Yeah, it sucks.
And I really don't know where that monster came from. How does somebody that I don't even know is got my music up for sale on some digital platform that I've never met, that's never talked to my record company? I mean, they pop up everywhere. It's like,
that's crazy, right?
Yeah. It's criminal.
It's like it's like a shakedown.
Yeah, man. It's like if I pull up in your yard, and I run out of gas and your truck's got the keys in it, and I just take it, right? It was there.
Yeah. It's
the same thing.
Yeah. A lot of people have said that to me, that they hate those streaming platforms. They don't like them.
But, labels are starting to think, well, and the scary thing for me was I was talking to a guy not long ago about if this guy has like 50,000 CDs, dude, this guy's insane.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a whole basement with these special shelves. I mean, it's like the Smithsonian. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And he had a flood. So I went down there and looked it over. And luckily he had built it off the ground just in case it did flood. So
Right.
the water didn't catch it. But he looked at me and he said, my wife wants this turned into a part of the house because they got grandkids coming and stuff. And so the generation thing is, okay, I've got all these plastic boxes.
Mm-hmm.
My hoarding of CDs and my love of music, but I got to make space. So what I can do is I can basically put them on this USB stick and store them in files, and I can sell all this stuff at a big record riot and dump all these CDs for a couple bucks each. And I said, don't do it. He goes, I can't, but and I've heard it from a lot of people that it's a thing about space.
Right.
And I'm like, screw that. I mean, I used to live in 1-room apartments and I had, 2x4s with milk cartons stacked with my vinyl on it, and that was my plan. I didn't have any room, but that's where my music was. So I think digital is kind of a convenience thing as well. Because when's the last time you bought a car with a CD player in it?
I got my car, I think it was a year ago, and it still had a CD. I love it. It has a CD player in it, but
really,
it's very rare. A lot of
brand new car.
No, it's not new. It's actually 5 years old. So that's the reason why I was able to get it with a CD. If you buy a new car, like you said, now in a dealership, right off the lot, 9 times out of 10, there will not be a CD player in there.
Absolutely not. It's terrible, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, I'm gonna miss mine because if God forbid if something ever happens to my car and I have to buy a brand new car, I have like 5,000 CDs, nowhere near close to your friends, but I love my CDs.
Yeah,
the whole fun about buying music is like you get to open up the package and you get to look at the photos and read the liner notes and the credits and all that, and it's like it's nothing there. It's just nothing. It's like you said, but like with people sitting at the dinner table, there's nothing personal about it anymore because the digital phones and the digital copies of music, they just take all the fun out of everything.
It's
nothing personal anymore. It's like you got to be personable, like have conversations with people, not just stare at your phone or, instead of buying, going to the store, record store, or going to the trade show and buying the records or the CDs. It's basically you're just breaking your credit card out and clicking something online and just downloading a bunch of files.
Yeah, isn't that weird how it all kind of fits with the being locked down and stuck and, everything is, delivered to your door, or you can click a button and you can download what you purchased. Movies. I mean, I used to love to go to drive-ins, and I used to love to go to the movies. We have a movie theater in our village here in Piacenza, and you go in there and it's big. There's like 20 people, really nice, reclining seats that hold your cola and your food. And I'm looking, this is terrible. I went to see Queen in Montreal there, and it sounded fantastic. And watching Freddie going, oh my God. But I looked around the room and there's like 20, 30 people. And I'm like, nobody goes out.
Nope.
You can do it at home on Netflix. A lot of the new movies are only streamed. They're not even released.
I know. Me and my wife are going to watch that new Halloween movie, Halloween Kills. It's on Peacock. Like you can just watch it on the TV at home. I mean, it's in the theater too, but I could actually watch it in my house on my living room TV.
Yeah, but that's not, it's like you said, holding the CD, right? It's the same thing. Right. The smell of popcorn when you go in, and getting all the stuff that you shouldn't eat and kicking back and the big sound and all the advertisements, and the sound rumbling the seats, it's like a vinyl or a CD. You look at the booklet and go, man, that's a cool picture. God, I love that lyric line. And you listen to the song again, if you lift the needle, and it's just, I don't know. It's, what is the word? Homogenize the world.
Maybe we're just getting old, David.
maybe it could, like I said, can you imagine your wife saying, okay, James, you got to get rid of those CDs, man. I want to bring grandkids and we got to make space.
Yep. It could happen one day because my kids are not married yet. So
it's like, well, what do you mean we got to get rid of them? Well, that baby now that we've got, that grandchild, is keep pulling them down off the shelf, and it's a hazard now if they could be hurt.
Exactly.
Screw it. I'm going to build an addition to the house. I'm going to go out in the garage. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like concerts, right? I mean, the thing about over here is that a lot of the clubs that survived that are recovering.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these dangerously creative, talented young bands that have, like we were when we were 20, you could live for the moment. They don't care if they eat. They just want to rock and roll, right? And they will come to that club that I play on the circuit and play for the door, or not even the door, and invite 200 of their personal friends to come who will drink everything in the house and go absolutely apeshit. Well, they'll look at David, who, in my opinion, at my level as an artist, where I am at my age, they'll say, okay, can you bring that 200 kids in? I can't say yes. I can't. And then they'll tell me, well, I've got this band. They play here about every 6 weeks. Place is jam-packed, sweaty, and I sell, 500 liters of beer, in an hour. And they don't want a penny. They just want to play their songs and sell their merchandise. That's become an issue.
Yeah.
If we go full electric,
Mm-hmm.
can you imagine if you have to go from a giant tour bus to a Mercedes Sprinter and you can only drive 250 kilometers to a charging station? You're going to have to pretty much route your tour where there's charging stations are close by. And who in the hell can do that?
Oh, I know.
So everything about it is just like it never stops, I mean, it's like I was in Denmark and there was like a line of people, at least 10 at each charging station at one of these giant truck stops. I thought, how long does it take to charge on these cars? The guy goes, oh, this one takes 45 minutes. And I thought, 45 minutes?
I know. How ridiculous is that?
If you're on tour, think about stopping 4 or 5 times, to get to the next city. And then if you're in the city and you're out of power, you got to charge up or find a place at night. It's just everything like that logistically just freaked me out.
Mm-hmm. I believe it. I mean, I'm dreading that day. I do not want an electric car. I like my car.
Yeah. I mean, they're saying here LPG gas powered cars. So I basically bought my wife a new car 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that means now I've got to pay thousands to have this thing installed because they're going to get rid of gasoline. But I have to pay out of my pocket to install this tank. It goes in the back of the car.
Crazy.
It's like, what? Wait a minute. Whose idea is that?
Ridiculous.
So yeah. So I'm a little irritated.
Yeah. So it's crazy. How everything's changing. We're going to change at some point. I'm not looking forward to that.
No.
But like I said, maybe we're just getting older and we just we're setting our ways.
Here's Michael said from Wicked Sensation. We were heading to the airport and we like muscle cars, right? I like big trucks because in one of the videos, I'm driving a Chevy Z71 and it was great. I'm driving around this rock quarry, just throwing dirt and, just, and Germans and Europeans really love our muscle cars, right? So he looked at me and he said, I really want a 69 Camaro SS. But he goes, I know if I buy it, they'll mandate that I have to put an electric motor in it and I'll just be able to look at it in my garage. He goes, how uncool would that be with an electric motor? I said, you got a good point, Michael. He goes, so I'm just not going to waste the money because I'll spend $25,000 to buy it and restore it. And then 2 years later, it'll be worth $500.
Right. Not worth it.
I said, yeah. And he looked at me. He was like totally sad. He goes, man, my dream is just to have a muscle car that I can drive on Sunday and, open it up and listen to it on the Autobahn because they don't have a speed limit. You can really push those cars. I said, oh my God, dude, I didn't even think about that. He goes, man, little quiet electric motor in a big Camaro muscle car. What a joke.
That's not cool.
Sad, man. It's like, oh my God.
That's kind of lame, actually.
It's really lame, man. And he looked at me with sad eyes and I go, dude, I feel for you, dude. I don't have the words. He goes, it sucks because you grew up with those cars and it was like normal for you to jump into a Roadrunner when you were a high school kid and just tear off. And I go, yep, it was normal. He goes, but we never had that. We've got Porsches and all these expensive, cars, but we like muscle cars. But what's the point?
Exactly. That's like buying a like a 6-cylinder Camaro or like a 6-cylinder Mustang,
Yeah.
Like you want to
body looks cool.
The body looks cool, but it's slow as shit. When you have a muscle car, you want power. You know,
you want the 351 Cleveland in the Mach 1 Mustang, right? You wanted the 350 and the Chevelle, and like I did in my
or the 396, you know, or you know,
you want that thing to be like, wait a minute, man, I better back off, or I'm going to be launched into space. You know what I mean? It's like,
right. You want to feel like you're lifting off of the fucking ground when you take off. You know, not like you're in a microwave, you know,
with wheels, a microwave in it. And you know, you like, and you look out your window, and you know, instead of having that nice tree that you had to cut it down because you had to buy a charging station. You know, it's like, really?
Yeah. Like, what are people who live in apartment buildings going to do? Like, they're going to dig up all the parking lots and put charging stations in there.
Absolutely. They're doing that here. They're actually lining up charging stations at the parking spots.
That's crazy.
You'll have to pay for it.
Oh, I'm sure. Nothing's for free. I mean, everything's going to go up just like it's going up now.
It's like, we're going to give it just, you know, next month's rentals. If you move in next month, you get 1 month's free charging service. If you know what I mean? It's like, what? That's going to be the thinking, you know?
Oh, I'm sure that's what's going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
So you're excited.
That's kind of, huh?
Go ahead.
Nah, don't call me goathead. Anyway, I mean, we're talking about rock and roll, and I think it's all connected, right? We're artist people. You and I are talking about what we went through and times that have changed. But one thing that hasn't changed is that memory. And I always try to say this, there are certain songs that just touch me, and I can listen to that song and go back 40 years to the same feeling that I had that day.
That's awesome.
You know, I can put headphones on, and then there's certain albums that I like and just get lost in the record. You know, each song is like, oh boy. Oh yeah, I forgot about this one. Oh, got it. You know what I mean? And it's like, that is the finest drug I've ever taken. And I'm not going to give that up.
Nope. I wouldn't if I were you.
No, I'm not. Until it becomes to where I'm struggling, where I can't sing. And maybe physically it's just too much to bear. Then I'll step down gracefully. I mean, look at Vince Neil. You know, the guy made it. And there's a thing called the it factor. You know, I consider myself a fine singer, but there are extras that go along with that even take it to another level. And it's the it thing. Here's this guy that's, you know, really not taking care of himself, and people are just butchering, but people are still buying tickets because he has something, right?
Right.
And the other night when he falls in that crevice and breaks a bunch of ribs, of course, here come all the haters.
Yep.
But there are people there that are protecting him, and you know they're going to do one of the biggest tours in the world next year with Def Leppard. But they're, you know, he's still doing it. You know what I mean? He's still out there doing it, and I'm not looking at really any of these young guys that are up and coming that are really making me that excited. There's a few. I like that guy Dino a lot. Dino Jalusic. I think he's a fine singer. He's doing the Whitesnake thing. I got to meet him in Warsaw, him and his father, and I stayed with them, and we did a Ronnie James Dio tribute concert, and he floored me as a singer. The guy from Rival Sons, he's another one. He floors me. Fantastic. Who are your guys? Who are you listening to now?
I listen to you. I listen to Susemihl. I listen to Steel City. I love that band. I love Murano. The Great Affairs are really cool. Denny Smith's band. Guys like that I listen to. I don't really listen to a lot of stuff on the radio. Anything that they're playing on the radio. I don't even, where I live, they don't even really have a good rock station. They have it's a classic rock station, but they play the same like 200 songs that everybody else plays, you know. But those are the bands I like. I like the Suicide Bombers.
They're cool.
They're really cool. Yeah. So those are the people I'm listening to. I mean, I play your stuff all the time. Steel City's a big. I love that band. Mike Floros is awesome.
Yep, great stuff. And I'm glad we're bringing those names up because people need to hear about these bands.
Yep.
My wife is a big Shinedown fan, and I had no idea who they were. And I wake up to it on the alarm every day. But I actually watched this band, and I go, you know, those guys did it by themselves. Pretty much. And like Nickelback, everybody loves to hate those guys, but you know what? There's some pretty ripping songs, tongue-in-cheek rock tunes. that those guys wrote. And what I respect most about him is that Kroger came out of nowhere by playing zigzagging across Canada and selling records out of the back seat of his car. And people got wind of it and signed him. And, you know, love to hate him, whatever it is. I don't get that, but I think they're very talented. I think there's a band called, what are they called? Dirty Honey that are out. They're pretty good. I'm liking some of their stuff. The new Iron Maiden album, I kind of like it because it sounds like they've matured and fell into that where they are, maturation and growth as a band. And Bruce is still singing great. And then, you know, the new Judas Priest, I mean, that was a great record. So I mean, I try to stay current and look at some of these new bands, but not many of them are really grabbing me. You know, there's a couple singers because I'm real critical about singers, obviously, and you got to have a certain tone or just a kind of a, what they call it, the it factor. Again, something that reaches out and touches me, that, you know, that I'm listening to you. Sell me that song. Sell me the song, you know.
Your CD, is it available now for pre-order?
It is. We had a special limited edition box set thing, a little metal box with the cover on it with some pics and dog tags. There was 111 of them made, and I'm sure 11 of those went to the band and the label. But I've seen boxes with their numbers up. I think it was number 85 yesterday. Wow.
Where can we get these?
El Puerto Records, my label that I'm back with. I got to say, shout out to those guys. They're just good guys. They love music. They're like you and me. They work my records. They do great media. They put me in touch with you. You know, guys that know about me and care about what I do. You know, and are critical of me when they say, it's okay, you know, but Dave, you know, I really like that. If you do like an interview, right, and they bring up the record before, you kind of know the new one didn't do much. But people are talking about Blacklist like it's kind of a nice evolution into the next step. Okay. I don't know if you hear it that way, but I think it's a damn fine album.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it's just as good as the last one. So
awesome.
You know, I love it. And your website is still davidreeceofficial.info?
Yeah.
And all that stuff that's up on that website, is that stuff still available, like the posters and everything?
I gotta update. And you know, without touring, I'll be honest, I'm a little back offish about buying stuff and creating merchandise because I can sell unlimited access to the people that know me personally, will buy everything I do. But I need to take it out on tour and offer to merchandise. And if there's no shows, then it's rather pointless. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to update it with all this media that's coming out right now. With my album, Wicked Sensation, with the Highway Sentinels, and then, of course, the Herman Frank thing. And I think Herman and I will probably release a mixed single shortly to give everybody a taste of it. Because, you've got to have a bunch of guys in a band that are well known. So promoters go, I'm going to book that. Because we all have a history that fans know about, right? Donnie, Herman, Dave, Francesco. So it's an appealing band. You know what I mean? And think about the set list we could play. I mean, even if we didn't make an album, our history, we could play 90 minutes of classics, Riot songs, Reece songs, Accept songs, Herman Frank songs, Victory song. I mean, it could go on and on and on.
That would be pretty cool. Is there anything you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about today?
Just buy product, support live bands like you talked about. You know, if you can, reach in your pocket, buy physical, stay the course. Hopefully we can all see each other again on stage. And I thank everybody for everything. Thank you so much. I'm not in any way taking a minute of this for granted. And if you are offended by some of the things I've said lyrically on the album, my intention was not to do so. I'm just voicing that I'm not afraid to say what I feel. I won't back down, like Tom Petty said. And I'm gonna be true to my art form as best possible. And I hope that I don't offend anybody because it's not intentional. If I did, fucking own it. I owe no apologies. Fucking own it. If it offended you, go ahead and rant and rave about it. But I didn't set out to do that, and it's not my problem. It's yours.
Right.
I'm sorry.
You're entitled to speak your mind, and that's the one great thing about, freedom of speech. You're able to express how you feel. And I think you do that. You're a straight shooter. You're not a bullshitter. You
Right.
basically tell
Let me ask you a question, James.
Mm-hmm.
The Rolling Stones are considering pulling Brown Sugar off their live set and taking it off their platform.
I heard about
That's how. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I was like, my wife told me about that. I just shook my head. I was just like, you know what? I can't anymore.
I can't imagine. It's not a bad song about, because it could be considered about slavery and black. You know what?
Interpreted wrong. It's like,
yeah, it's a rock and roll song that we grew up with, and they're thinking about, because it's politically incorrect and some people are offended, we're not going to play it live anymore. We're going to ask all the record companies to pull it and all the stream platforms. Okay, go ahead, Mick. If that's what you really think you need to do after all the great things you've done, don't forget to pull Negrita off your playlist as well, because that's about your ex-wife, Bianca. And as far as I remember, she was half African-American and half Colombian. So maybe you should look at that list too, at that title. If that's as chicken shit as you've got to be, Mick, I've lost a lot of respect for you.
I know, it's crazy.
I mean, you, Mick, you were the Glimmer twin, the original. So if bands are going to start doing that, forget about it.
Yep, ridiculous. Well, David, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I want to wish you lots of luck with Blacklist Utopia and the Wicked Sensation album, the Iron Allies album. I can't wait to hear those two albums when they come out. And, stay safe and let's keep in touch. All right.
Yeah. Did you get a link to Wicked Sensation? Have you been contacted by Roar Records yet?
No, I have not.
I'll pass your name on to Michael Klein and tell him about you. Maybe you can interview Michael about it and get a copy.
That would be great.
I'll do it right now.
All right, cool, man.
All right, James. I love you, man. Thank you very much. And I hope to be talking to you real soon with all these products. We do some interviews and, talk about me and Herman and Wicked and all that stuff.
All right, man. Love you too. Take care. All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Serenade is fading like castles in the sand. Sunlight is fading over no man's land. Progress masquerading while they're kicking cans. Destiny of sailors' souls still lies in dirty hands.